All right. Um, Hello. Can you hear me okay? Oh, wait.
Yeah, I need to switch
Oh,
my speakers. Hold on.
okay. Cool, 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 cool. All right. All right. Everything's recording. Good beans. I've got you set as co-host. You're in the room. If you need anything, hit me up in chat. But I'm running all three rooms at once. So, but if you need anything, just let me know. But I think
Yeah,
you're great.
that's fine.
So
I don't think my headset's gonna work. So,
you sound great for what it's
okay,
worth.
great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm ready to go, but
All right. Cool beans.
all right. So we're gonna start at 2:45. Make sure that my stuff is all. And let me check. All right. So hi everyone. It's great to see that we have quite a few people joining us today. So welcome everyone. I know y'all are probably from all over. So yes, my name is Alyssa Wharton, and I'm going to be presenting If You Build It, They Will Come. We're going to be doing a roundtable discussion today about exploring your makerspace development, growth, and sustainable operations. Um, Now, don't you worry, folks. We have a lively discussion and multiple ways that we're going to be participating in discussion today. So if you want, you can grab that Padlet link with the QR code. And I'm also going to drop a link to both the presentation and the Padlet discussion in chat, as well as my email, so that you can add resources, share your insights, tell some horror stories or some wonderful memories about successes, anything that you can think of. We want to, share all here. I'm just going to be kind of a facilitator. We have a couple of different subjects that we're going to go over today. So first, just to give you an overview, I'm going to talk about myself because I love talking about me. But then also I'm going to make sure that everyone has a link to the Padlet and you can start contributing there. We'll talk about starting a makerspace. And for those who haven't established a makerspace, we'll talk about things that you have worked with and how to move forward and continue with the momentum you have, as well as services you can offer, growth beyond that, and sustainability overall, operational, economic, and environmental. And then we'll open up the discussion a little more. So I make makerspaces. I have had my hand on a lot of different makerspaces, whether it's just being a supporting role and helping with fine-tuning some services and some logistics, to just getting things started from square one. That includes UNC Greensboro's Jackson Library Digital Media Commons, where I was hired as the very first student worker, and I got to really kind of help us define what our service model was and like how it would work and what kinds of things we actually did. And this was long before we even got a 3D printer. Now, from there, I moved to UNC Wilmington, and I'm currently at the Randall Library Digital Makerspace. And they had established a makerspace prior, but they had nobody to run it, and they didn't really know what was going on because there were a lot of hands in this cookie jar, and everyone was kind of doing their own thing. So it's important to have like a cohesive vision and to make sure everybody's on the same page. And recently, I've helped launch the Cape Fear Makers Guild, which is a local nonprofit public makerspace, and we are trying to get started and get the community more involved, because the more the merrier. Let's get making. I'm also working with a few folks at Cape Fear Community College, and they are quite wonderful. We're trying to get a makerspace started there. So we have a lot of makerspaces going on. I also like to travel, and when I travel, I like to go see every makerspace I can. So like one time I was up in Iowa, in like Davenport, and I was like, oh, I think there's a makerspace around here, so let's go see that. So I like to, kind of snoop and see what everybody's doing, and I like to hear what everybody's doing. So that way we can kind of get a good idea of best practices and the ultimate endless possibilities that can happen in our wonderful makerspaces. I've also advised with a lot of startup makerspaces that include some colleagues in higher education, as well as K-12 and in public libraries. And I'm always happy to lend a helping hand because it's just really fun. I love my job, I can't complain. I hope that y'all are in a similar boat, or if not, that some of my positive vibes can rub off on you. So again, I would love it if everyone could please join the Padlet, and you can start filling it in, or you can go along just according to the discussion. The Padlet is going to look like this, and we have a lot of different things, and I have a couple of prompts in here to help you with the discussion. And hopefully this will still continue to be a resource even after the virtual conference is over. And I hope to see you at the in-person conference next week. So starting out with our open discussion, I have 3 different topics that we can talk about. One is our audience. So who are your stakeholders and patrons? 2, your funding. So is there a budget? What are you working with? Are you getting grants? And operations. How are you supporting your makerspace? So we can open this up, or I can talk a little bit about my own experience. All right, well, I'll share a little bit about some of mine. So a lot of times when I'm thinking about a makerspace, I like to think a lot about the audience because it's ultimately who we're going to be serving. With K-12 makerspaces, we're thinking about a lot of times the students and sometimes the parents, because they love makerspaces. And so they like to give things to the makerspaces. So we always want to keep them in mind. But really, we're also thinking about who is going to be, overall supporting there, who's going to be there the most. So not just patrons who come in for a one-off project, but sometimes your staff, or your student employees, or, people who are really actively supporting things throughout your campus. So this can be like, for example, I'm often called away across campus to support all sorts of different technologies and to like repair 3D printers that have been shoved in a closet for like 5 years. So there's a lot of different opportunities. And we have somebody in chat who's adding, but please feel free to unmute if you can. I hope you can. So I'm at a public library. We serve adults. Our library foundation secures various grants and provides about $70,000 to 5 Maker Lab sites. That's really incredible. Cool. We don't quite use that much. Staffing for the non-flagship sites are challenging and no dedicated staff. That's really something to consider, and definitely a challenge I've seen in a lot of different makerspaces. There are some makerspaces out there. I know at Wake Forest University, they have what is called the Wakerspace. And Paul Whitener is the full-time staff person that coordinates the Wakerspace. And he does have one student worker, and he doesn't really have a budget beyond that. But he has like 30-something student volunteers. And he does hold the volunteers to kind of a standard, so they have to put in a certain amount of hours, per week, and they have to meet every other week. So there are models where you do have volunteers, and we can also add that to the Padlet. If anybody wants to contribute to the Padlet, please do. It's really cool. But it is really dedicated with staffing. I know, especially in like this economy and when we're all on certain budgets, it can be challenging to think about how to support or incentivize people and to also keep up morale. So does anybody have any contributions to that? I really want this to be an open discussion, but I feel like y'all are a little shy. Okay, well, lively discussion. Please feel free to add to chat and also add to the Padlet. But there are volunteer models out there, and sometimes it comes from your most frequent users. Sometimes it can come from just interest meetings or open houses. So, and the question is really, we're looking at for our screen sharing. Let me make sure I'm sharing the correct screen. Yes, is we're talking about these three topics on here. So our audience, who are your stakeholders and patrons, and funding, is there a budget? Are you getting grants? And our operations. How are you supporting your makerspace? So that can be like staff, this can be like materials, anything that goes. And please feel free to, add any other insights or what you do and what works for you and your space to the Padlet, because that way people can actually go and see like, hey, I never thought of that before. And it could be something that's like completely normal to you and you've been doing it for years. So you never really know. And yes, for those of you coming in late, I will drop links in chat. So there is a Padlet discussion as well as a link to the presentation, and the Padlet QR codes that are in the presentation also link to the Padlet. So yay, resources, super cool. But thank you all so much for joining me. I am so excited to have everyone here. But yeah, when we're thinking about stakeholders, we're thinking about patrons, donors. And when we're thinking about funding, we're thinking beyond donors, but more like grants, or do we have like a dedicated departmental budget if you're part of a campus or part of a system, and how that looks and how you can distribute that. And I know that making a makerspace on a budget is a thing. It can be done. And it's really just about like being thorough with what equipment you're getting and everything in between. And we can go into more details in the weeds about that if you're curious about specific equipment or grants. But I know we're just trying to keep an open discussion today and right now. All right. Well, please feel free to continue to ruminate on this subject as we move into the next topic for more established makerspaces and folks that are, running their space. For staffing, do you have volunteers or paid positions? So, we mentioned this in the previous slide and part of that discussion. Maintenance, how are you keeping up with equipment? How much equipment do you have, and is it overwhelming? Do you feel like things are slow? Is some equipment more popular than others? And is everything just constantly falling apart or not? What is working and what isn't? As well as other challenges. Please feel free to share any other challenges that you've encountered or lessons learned. This is a place for us to share and really support each other as we're navigating, owning, and are a established or just getting started makerspace. We want to be here for a resource for each other.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Lowell Leibarger. I'm from Arkansas Tech University. I'm curious with anyone who runs this. Of course, a lot of us do here who are here, of course. To what extent are you competing with other departments in terms of their own kind of digital media creation, multimodal stuff, and how it seems like they don't seem to see any use in the spaces that we provide? And very often students and even some faculty will use lesser quality equipment. Like they won't try and check out a DSLR, they'll just use their phone. Or especially, I'm an audio guy mainly, they'll do lesser audio. Audio is an afterthought, and they're okay with poor quality audio, thinking that they can just do it themselves, and we simply don't have value added services where they could up their game when it comes to the digital production thing. And again, getting back to the audio, your video will fail if you don't have good audio. It's that simple. And so much does involve audio, right? When it comes to video, not always. Of course, we have closed caption, which is needed, but I'm just curious because I just find that people think they already know how to do it. And sure, the tools are getting more and more user-friendly, so you can actually bang out a great flyer with Canva, you know, or something of that sort. But I feel like we offer opportunities to increase and do better than what they're actually doing. But somehow marketing that I find is really hard to do.
Yes, absolutely. I have plenty to speak to that. We have other like labs on campus that do have some high-tech things and some that are lesser so, just depending on the department. The way that we kind of started advertising ourselves here at UNCW in the Randall Library as the digital makerspace is that we are here to support all emerging technologies across campus. So while the departmental area may have stuff, a lot of times during busy times of year, like during project times and finals, they are overflowing and they are way too busy and they have way too many students and they don't know what to do because there's just not enough to go around. And there's always a need. So even if you aren't getting that demand, you're still there as a backup plan because sometimes stuff does need maintenance. Sometimes they need support. So having people come in to use this stuff, even as plan B, I always have plans B through Z. So it's really a good idea to just start thinking about you're not just like the big mover and shaker that you are, but to them, they see themselves as the big mover and shaker. They see themselves as the big cheese. So you're here to be, supporting that. But while you're there and while you have their ear, you can be like, well, hey, I know that you have your own lab and stuff over there, but what if we did a demonstration for your class or your entry level folks? So say, we have an entry level class or like an elective. And while we do want to teach them like top of the line with like, Adobe InDesign or Audition or something, it's also better to start with smaller user-friendly things and promote overall digital literacy by introducing a smaller, easier to package, introductory level software such as Audacity. And that can be a way to kind of get your foot in the door and get them moving and thinking about more advanced level and professional quality production, that it can be done. And yeah, the phone is good enough, but when we're thinking about really making solid content and research and presentation, that's where we can really dive into getting this stuff promoted. So I'm actually in my podcasting studio right now. It's a converted office. And there's a lot of construction actually right behind this wall where we are getting an expansion to our library. So, we're still getting people interested. And we have several different programs where we get an outreach to students and faculty. And I can go about those at length at the end of the discussion, but I do want to leave some open if anybody else has anything to contribute to this. And I know chat's going crazy right now. So great job, everybody. Well, I'll go ahead and read what's in chat right now. So students will use random apps on their phones over GarageBand for podcasts. Yeah, that's true. And it gets a little sketchy sometimes. Another person has said, we found partnering with groups across campus is helpful. So working with music department to help us create our audio studio so it can be an overflow for the students is available to all students. That's great. Yeah, because while these departmental labs exist, there's still other departments and other classes that have electives that have assigned and they're non-major students and they don't always have access to those department specific resources. So being somewhere that supports everyone and also supporting projects, both personal, professional, and academic, that's what we do here as well. So I totally am in agreement with that. And working with classes, bringing them in for a tour and tech lending, physically showing them what they can check out, showing them how to use the audio studio and how to use softwares. Yes, I absolutely do that too. This takes outreach with faculty and planning with them to use class time for instructional sections. And while that is true, I do love, like we have a UD 101 introductory course. And for those courses, they often reach out to us and they'll take one class period. And for that one class period, we do what I like to call a torientation. Yes, say with me, folks, it's a torientation. And what that is a overview of the digital makerspace in our facilities here. So they get to sample a little bit of everything and see all of the things that we help people do, from like learning to navigate software to checking out cameras, GoPros, tripods, DSLRs, all the things. And also getting to play around with our virtual reality or our podcasting equipment. So everyone gets like a little sample during the orientation classes. And those can be 45 minutes long. You'd be surprised. So there's also amazing comments in the Padlet app. I know I don't have time to go through Padlet, but I do want to encourage everyone to continue to use that resource and also include their comments there, because those are so valuable. But yes, thank you. It is quite exciting, and I can talk at length about this, but I hope other people would have things to contribute as well. So many of you work in academic libraries. How do you all reach those under 25? They use all different apps, not Facebook, not email, Discord. Discord is very popular, but I know Discord's kind of structured, not as much of an open thing. I don't manage my library's social media, and I know it's different for every library. We have an outreach librarian who oversees our social media content, and so he's posting on Instagram and Twitter a lot more frequently. And I know TikTok's had kind of a big influence with a lot of younger folks. So that's really been what people have been using from what I've seen. But it also helps to have flyers. Like people post flyers in like the bathroom. So we have bathroom stalls, and in the stalls on the back of the door, we have like a little flyer sleeve. And that's where we put flyers about library events or ongoings or services and resources that we have, just to remind people. And we rotate those out throughout the year. And that's actually pretty useful. Bathrooms. And we have another comment. Most students tell me Instagram. We also do not manage our own social media, but can send posts to be shared. So yeah, all of that's things to consider. And I know it can be challenging getting the word out. I can talk so much about this, and I do have a talk with my supervisor at the in-person conference next week that is about exactly this. It's going to be on Thursday next week at ACTAL. Does anybody have anything else to contribute to established makerspaces before we move on? If not, if you don't feel satisfied with this, don't worry, we can bring this around back, and we'll have an open discussion at the end. All right, thank you, everyone. So services. So what kind of services do you offer, and what are the pros and cons of these services? Feel free to add those into to Padlet. What I've done is I've taken a screenshot of our digital makerspace website. This is our website as it is. We have a bunch of these little icons of our different services, and it's kind of a breakdown of what we do. My goal is to expand these services a lot more once our expansion is complete. So once all that construction is done next summer, and when we open in the fall, we're going to kind of do an overhaul. And I'm really curious to see what else we can do and what we can add. And yes, I will absolutely share the pad link one more time. Here you go.
So this is Sasha from Chicago Public Library. Our space really started with kind of like the cookie cutter set of equipment, like the 3D printer, the vinyl cutter, and the laser cutter. And then we started to add sewing machines, which have been hugely popular. We serve adults. I think, we approach every class as beginners. And so we do get a good number of survey responses, and some folks are looking for something more advanced. Sometimes they do find it challenging to have such a wide range of learners in the space, as do we, but it can be very hard to get that graduated like 101, 102, 103. So we're primarily doing workshops, open shops, and some fabrication via email. We're hoping to get started with some podcasting soon and some very small tech checkout. I would like to think of the tech checkout as a pilot to see if other library locations want to kind of piggyback and copy some of those things if, we've created some assets that go with the items that go out.
Yeah, absolutely. Tech checkout's very popular for us. We only have a few things, but they get wiped out fast, and we're working on kind of expanding that and getting some more equipment out there. It has been a very interesting semester because we have seen more circulation this semester than we have in the past 3 years. I mean, COVID given, but pre-COVID even. So we're quite impressed with that. It's very exciting. And yeah, having a variety of skill levels and learners is really challenging. Sometimes with the more advanced learners, they want to offer help, but they don't always know how. And having things like open house events, like where it's like laser night, and you kind of theme it like a laser show or do something crazy in vaporwave, can be a great way to bring people in of all skill levels who are interested in using the laser, and advanced users and learners can help new learners and novices, and experienced vetted folks can train overall and help kind of lead that community of practice. So you're really building communities of practice around individual tools and services. Yay, I'm so excited. I love talking, and I absolutely love ACTAL. It has been phenomenal. So, all right. And please feel free to share more about services. I know the Padlet will have a lot of other resources. Please feel free also after the presentation, if you want to go back in the Padlet, answer questions, share things with other people, communicate. Please do. We'd love to, build our own little community here and support each other. And I'll be happy to also put this presentation link and Padlet in the Discord once it's over as well. But moving on, growth. So your community. I know we just kind of talked about that because all of these things are really intertwined, and so I kind of planned it out so that we could segue easily. So have you cultivated a community in your makerspace, and what does it look like? How did it happen? And expansion, how has your makerspace grown, and how are you planning to grow? I have some interesting stories of my own, but I do want to hear from y'all first as well. And someone asked in chat, what has been the response of audiovisual rooms or AV rooms for you all? Is it worth the investment? I can say that I'm in the podcasting studio right now. This is our multi-purpose small scale production suite. In our new library expansion, the Makerspace and all of its facilities are moving over there. So we're actually getting 2 of these now because it is so popular. I booked this room for this presentation way in advance. But otherwise, this time of year, we are booked absolutely solid during our open hours in this room. We have all sorts of people, whether it's for classes or personal groups that are making their own podcasting projects, coming in and using this space. There is a lot of podcasting, but we do have streamers that come in and they like to stream games and use the green screen. And this chair and these chairs and this table have wheels on them, so it's able to be moved aside. And you can kind of take ownership of the room and move it around to where you like. It's a small scale green screen production suite, so it's really multi-purpose. I think it's worth it. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. This is Sasha again. So like I said, we started with some cookie cutter stuff. Our organization has reorganized a few different things. So I'm hoping now to like add, the mics and kind of some sound dampening. I don't have a budget to like redo a whole room just yet, but I'm hoping I can like showcase some demand for something like a whisper room or something else just to get people, kind of using this stuff. but trying to be mindful of like we have a small amount of staff, so like we're trying to be a on-ramp where our staff can provide that like beginner level assistance, but not need to be experts until we can find some of those folks to come in and help us do some programs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is actually a converted office. So like up here, we have just some foam panels. They're like waffle pads for our sound dampening. It's not 100%. And as you can see over here, like the most expensive thing on here is going to be the Rodecaster Pro. And we have some kit mics with it. And the kit lights on the light stands, those are like $20 lights from Amazon. If you can't, paint your walls chroma key, you can get the pop-up, expandable, and collapsible green screens from Amazon for like 20 bucks. So there's plenty of options out there. I can talk endlessly about shoestring budget when you're trying to get stuff started. So I get it. I've been there. And there's a lot of opportunities. And I know there's comments on fire. Everybody seems to love audio labs, and they're very popular. I can say when I have orientations with younger groups, so we're talking grade school field trips, we're talking Girl Scouts, the Wakamasuan tribal STEM youth that come by, they went crazy over this room. I can tell you that middle school, high school kids are absolutely bonkers about podcasting, content creation, YouTube. So when they see this room, everyone's just excited. And we get a lot of adults in the community who are also interested as well. And I try to give them the hookup and support them as much as I can. I know being part of a university, it can be kind of limited, but I do my best to try and serve everyone. And yeah, I'll try to also add in a ton of resources in the Padlet, probably towards the end of the day today. I can tell stories about building community. For example, at UNC Greensboro, at Jackson Library, when we had the digital media commons, it started out that we were kind of in the basement and out of the way. So no one really knew about us. And building a community was really difficult. And we had some nice off to the side rooms and closed off rooms for like our video production suite and everything. But it started with a lot of the Muslim students would come and ask us to use the video production suite to start praying because they found it was more comfortable than other prayer spaces on campus. So then eventually the MSA, the Muslim student organization, came and just started regularly hanging down out there. And then they brought their friends and like the Black Student Union and everybody. So they all just started hanging out there, and it became like they were all regular users. They all started making content, and it was just a very exciting time. So like we really saw it take off between 2015 and 2017 was really like where we saw it just suddenly. We were like every day it was like population was doubling down there. It was really exciting. Sometimes just being a welcoming space and having places for multi-purposing literally everything can start building up a community for your space. And I know with the expansion, we just keep having people ask, and I try to write down requests, and we're keeping track of our stats and everything for how many people are asking or using certain things. And when we turn those stats into our library leadership, they're floored. And so it puts in a good word for us to expand further. And with this building expansion, we're going to be over doubling our Makerspace square footage, and we're very excited. Any other notes about community and expansion? All right, well, thank you, everybody. We're going to talk about sustainability. This means, of course, multiple types of sustainability. So we're talking about operational sustainability, economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability. I know these are a lot of topics that people have tons of questions about, or they have a lot to share. So if you have questions, please ask them. If you have something to share just about random insights or stories, let's hear them. All right, well, I'll break the silence. We are a big sustainability institution at UNC Wilmington since we're based on the coast, and there's a lot of ocean and environmental sciences here. So naturally, we want to be in line with those sustainability goals. And as a makerspace, you know, you're using a lot of consumables, you're using a lot of plastics and stuff. So we've done a lot of research with post-consumer filament recycling. And I'm like working and kind of trying to give info to some folks who are doing post-consumer filament recycling research down at the University of South Florida or Central Florida. I'm gonna have to get my ducks in a row. But we use a filament extrusion system to recycle filament. So we blend up our filament that like our scraps, our throwaways, and we want to make sure that it's all PLA, so no intermingled plastics, because otherwise it's going to ruin the whole process and damage the machines. From there, we blend it up in a blender, put it through a sifter, the small particles, we then feed into a hopper of a filament extrusion system, and then it automatically winds on a automatic winding system. And so that was really exciting for us. The filament's a little inconsistent, so it only works in certain machines, and you have to do certain settings, but it's great for prototyping and like draft prints. So if you're just like testing for you know, size or exploring what things might look like, it's definitely a great way to, you know, use less. And I do have like a ton of stuff about sustainable slicing. I've done talks about sustainable slicing and ways to use less electricity and less filament while still getting good 3D prints that don't have compromised like integrity. Somebody did ask how time consuming is the filament recycling? What brand of machine do you use? So it is extremely time consuming. It is a little bit labor intensive. So we have to kind of like plan it out in advance and make sure that somebody's going to be there and just doing that. It is a little slow. We are using the fill extruder and fill winder system. So both of those are about $400. Yes, this is sustainability in every facet. So we are talking about keeping the work going, making sure that like if we have turnover with you know, employees or volunteers, that the work is still passed out and consistent and there's consistent training. We are talking about economically, you know, how do we maintain our budgets? You know, how do we ensure that our funding is stable, that kind of thing, or environmental sustainability as well. I just want to talk about sustainability in general. I love sustainability. So yes, please share. And if the former, all about library support from managers and money for materials and programs, we have hopes for more business sponsorship, repair or fix-it attempts or events. And for items no longer viable, take apart days to see how they are constructed. That's really great. Oh, thank you, David. Those are really great comments. And yes, those are two separate comments. Sorry, I'm very long-winded. Thank you. Thank you all so much. This is very exciting. I know making job aids has been a real challenge for us because we feel like we're constantly changing. And so having consistent documentation of everything has been really challenging as we bring on new people and as other people graduate. So I know that that's, you know, an operational sustainability type of issue, but definitely support from managers and leadership is big, and that includes money and being willing to negotiate about money with other departments. We've had a couple of instances for different programs and events where we've had to kind of figure out with other departments like, hey, we know we're coming up on the end of the fiscal year and we've got a limited budget to do X, Y, and Z. How can we negotiate? And so then we have to kind of compromise and stuff, but you know, I think being willing to have those conversations helps build you know, a positive rapport with everyone who you're working with, all of your colleagues and everyone in the library. So that, you know, everybody wants to typically throw money at a makerspace, but other departments and your colleagues need it just as much, and they're just as valuable. It's really, when you're a makerspace in the library, at least from my experience and, you know, all of, a lot of my makerspace experiences working in an academic library for about 10 years. So being able to support that and have these good relationships helps everyone come out on top, and in the long run, I think benefits us all. All right. Please feel free to continue to discuss this topic and add to the Padlet. I'm going to go on, and so that we can open this up to everything we've talked about or new questions. So again, please feel free to access the Padlet. This is really the best idea. Oh, and we do have a comment in chat. So sometimes limiting the circulation of select items like studio grade headphones or a hardware synthesizer certainly reduces the amount of wear and tear on the equipment while getting them to come to the makerspace instead of just equipment loan. That is a really good insight. And something that I also want to speak to is that some makerspaces, at least that I know of in the UNC system, have like a badging system. So some of those makerspaces use a badging system for training on the equipment, and some of them also use that for once they've used this equipment, like, so many times, or, they, take a quiz or pass it. And there's a lot of different types of badging systems. UNCW can't get their stuff together to figure out what badging system we want to use. So I'm really trying to get one, but I can't tell you a recommended specific one yet. But having a badging system in place for who can, like those advanced users, to check out those more advanced things can be a benefit and keep things more organized. All right. Please feel free to continue to add. I am so grateful for everyone here. Y'all are so amazing. I do want to encourage more open discussion, but please feel free to add more to the Padlet. And you can just connect in the general column as well. I'd love to hear more and see more, and I do want to continue to check in on the Padlet and try to add a couple more resources there if at all possible. But I was really hoping we could have like a very open discussion, but I know some folks are shy. It's the end of the day. I get it. And I hope to see you in person next week, maybe. So yeah, thank you everyone. I know we're getting close on time, so I just want to leave this time open. Please feel free to go. I do want to be respectful of your time, but if our hearts and minds are clear, please feel free to spend your time how you wish. Otherwise, I'm going to be here.
Hi, this is Sasha again. I just wanted to say thank you. And I got this email last week reminding me about like this whole virtual conference. So grateful because again, I am in Chicago and like how budgets can be. You have to like plan a year ahead. So this is amazing. And I'm working with someone from the University of Illinois to do some focus groups at various libraries next year through an IMLS grant. And I let her know that this awesome event happens and hopefully it'll be on her list to disseminate what we learn next year. So thank you to you and all the organizers. Have a great conference next week.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for coming. And please feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions. I can connect you with a lot of people as well. So I'm ready for you. Oh, thank you, everybody. Y'all are so amazing.